Hello, this is Freethought Forum, a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee. I am Ben Snyder.
And I am Faithless Forrest, and we want you to know that if you don't believe in God, you're not alone. Right here in East Tennessee, you can find free-thinking atheists and agnostics. This is a show for them and for people curious about living a life free of supernatural beliefs.
This is a call-in show, so we encourage you to start calling in now or whenever you'd like. However, we only have one phone line, so if you have any questions and can't get through to us, you are invited to tweet them to us at FFTVKnox.
The show is a production of the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee and individual supporters and our guests. We have a kind of a potpourri of topics today.
The Atheist Society of Knoxville is a fun meetup, often at a local bar or eatery. Tonight's meetup is at Barley's, and you can head on down there now. People will be there around 5:30. And Friday, there will be, well, I don't know if there will be happy hour. Oh, there may not be one. All right, not this week then. To find us at any location that we are at, look for the silver-jacketed copy of The God Delusion sitting up right on the table.
The Rationalists of East Tennessee monthly activities are, on the first and third Sunday mornings, lively lectures with roundtable discussions. Past discussions have included such topics as what every atheist should know about the Bible, the death penalty, and Charlie Chaplin's film City Lights. The second Sunday is Book Club, where we have discussed Sam Harris's End of Faith, Martha Stout's The Sociopath Next Door, and The Humanist's Approach to Happiness by Jennifer Hancock. The fourth Sunday is the Reflections Gathering, which is usually a potluck afternoon get-together at a member's home with a discussion topic. Past topics have included the meaning of widely used words and concepts which we frequently take for granted and misuse, deconversion stories, my favorites, and doing good works. Last March, we traveled to Washington for the Reason Rally, and early next month, several of us are planning a road trip to see Richard Dawkins.
Today is February 26th, 2013, and today we're going to be discussing the Bible's dirty secrets. But first, in the news.
You got it.
I've got it. In the news this month is a noteworthy coincidence: the birth anniversary of a scientist, a very prominent scientist, and the departure of the Roman Catholic Pope.
Born February 15th, 1564, Galileo Galilei is arguably the father of modern science. His investigation into falling bodies and material properties are not as well known as his work in astronomy with the telescope. While not the first to build a telescope, and perhaps not the first to look at objects in the sky, he is the first to do so and then write about what he saw, sharing the new insights of an enlarged heavens with humanity. No longer was the earth the center around which the sun revolved. No, the earth itself moved around the sun in a great circle, and the stars beyond must certainly be suns like our own at a great distance.
So how did the church, the organization which calls itself the only one true church, the Roman Catholic Church, react to Galileo's enlargement of what could only be the handiwork of their God? Did they rejoice? Did they say, of course we knew all along? No, they didn't even thank him. They cried heresy. They denied that the earth was moving and attempted to hold up geocentrism. And they imprisoned Galileo for life.
From Wikipedia, we have the following. He was tried by the Inquisition. Throughout his trial, Galileo steadfastly maintained that since 1616, he had faithfully kept his promise not to hold any of the condemned opinions, and initially he denied even defending them. However, he was eventually persuaded to admit that, contrary to his true intentions, a reader of his dialogue could well have obtained the impression that it was intended to be a defense of Copernicism, the idea that the sun was the center of our universe or solar system in modern parlance. In view of Galileo's rather implausible denial that he had ever held Copernican ideas after 1616, or ever intended to defend them in the dialogue, his final interrogation in July 1633 concluded with him being threatened with torture if he did not tell the truth. I believe they walked him down to the basement and showed him the instruments of torture. But he maintained his denial despite the threat. The sentence of the Inquisition was delivered on June 22nd. It was in 3 essential parts.
Galileo was found vehemently suspect of heresy, namely of having held the opinion that the sun lies motionless at the center of the universe, that the earth is not at its center and that it moves, and that one may hold and defend an opinion that is probable after it has been declared contrary to Holy Scripture. He was required to, quote, abjure, curse, and detest, quote, unquote, these opinions. He was sentenced to formal imprisonment at the pleasure of the Inquisition. On the following day, he was commuted to house arrest, which he remained under for the rest of his life.
His offending dialogue was banned, and in an action not announced at the trial, publication of any of his works was forbidden, including any he might write in the future. It was while Galileo was under house arrest that he wrote one of his finest works, The Two New Sciences, in which he summarized the work he had done some 40 years earlier on the two sciences we now call kinematics and the strength of materials.
Well, also in the news is the announcement of the retirement of current Pope Benedict the 16th, is it?
Oh, I
believe it's 16th.
I don't know these numbers.
His birth name is Joseph Ratzinger.
How's that last name again?
Oh, Ratzinger.
Ratzinger, all right.
He retires as the church continues to reside in splendor while asking their adherents for tithes. Tithes they asked for to pay for the legal costs to settle the numerous cases of liability for the pedophile priests, and to campaign against marriage equality, and to campaign against full insurance coverage of its employees, some of whom are non-Catholics. Also, I'd say to campaign against safe sex.
There we go. From Wikipedia again, we learn some disturbing things about Joseph Ratzinger, the soon-to-be cloistered ex-pope. So, cloistered, he's going into hiding?
Possibly. There have been several articles talking about how he has been advised to not leave Vatican City for, in Germany, I believe it is, in Bavaria, the Pope's own home state. 2 German lawyers have filed in the International Court crimes against humanity charges, mostly focused on covering up his role in the cover-up of systematic abuse of children at the hands of priests, and also to do with advocating in Africa against the use of contraceptives and things that would keep people healthy and safe when having sex.
Alrighty. Well, on February 15th of 1990, in a speech delivered at the, I'm going to mangle this, Sapienza University of Rome.
Sapienza, I don't know.
Cardinal Ratzinger, some of the views he cited were those of the philosopher Paul Feyerabend, whom he quoted as saying, "The Church at the time of Galileo kept much closer to reason than did Galileo himself, and she took into consideration the ethical and social consequences of Galileo's teachings too." Man, I must say that just burns me when I hear that they're going to take into account the ethical and social consequences of discussing whether or not something is true. I mean, wow. All right. Yeah. Back off my podium here. Her verdict against Galileo, her, I guess, is the church.
The church.
Was rational and just, and the revision of this verdict can be justified only on the grounds of what is politically opportune.
Politically opportune, or political opportunism.
Yeah.
The cardinal did not clearly indicate, cardinal being Ratzinger prior to being pope, whether he agreed or disagreed with, I'm going to guess it's Feyerabend's assertions. He did, however, say it would be foolish to construct an impulsive apologetic on the basis of such views. Newsflash for Ratzinger, this is no longer the 1600s. Galileo was a blazing beacon of light, and the church then was, and some of its leaders today remain afraid of that light. It's also worth noting, in the excellent book called God's Jury, which looks at the history of the Office of the Inquisition, which still exists, Ratzinger was actually kind of in charge of that. He actually was still trying to decide what was heretical and not. There were Catholic there were Catholic priests who were teaching in Catholic colleges or universities who may have expressed heretical beliefs, and he would call them in and basically threaten their livelihood, their jobs, over, preaching and teaching what he considered to be heretical.
All right. Well, let's end talk of the Pope's resignation with an excerpt from the open letter to liberal Catholics from Freedom from Religion co-president Annie Laurie Gaylor. Can you start?
Sure. She begins, "Dear liberal Catholic, it's time to quit the Roman Catholic Church. It's your moment of truth. Will it be reproductive freedom or back to the Dark Ages? Do you choose women and their rights or bishops and their wrongs? Whose side are you on anyway? If you're part of the Catholic Church, you're part of the problem."
Catholic politicians are urging that the right to contraception be left up to the states, she says in big question mark. Nearly 50 years after the Supreme Court upheld that contraception as a privacy right, we're going to have to defend this basic freedom all over again, she asks. Your continuing Catholic membership as a liberal casts a veneer of respectability upon an irrational sect determined to blow out the Enlightenment and threaten liberty for women worldwide. You are an enabler, and it's got to stop. Join those of us who put humanity above dogma. As a member of the flock of an avowedly anti-democratic club, isn't it time you vote with your feet? And she concludes, please exit en masse.
Mass, spelled M-A-S-S, such as what they call their church services for those who may not know. I find it interesting she does. If this is the full quote of her, that she doesn't seem to hit upon the
this
massive.
Is highly abbreviated.
Oh well, I would hope then that she does hit on the massive cover-up and institutionalized protection of pedophile.
Oh yes,
priests and such.
So to get the full text of her speech, you could shoot us an email at freethoughtforum@yahoo.com, and we can shoot you a link to the full text of her letter. I'm sure if you were to go to the freedomfromreligion.org website and search around on there, you could find it there. All right, on to the news?
No, enough of the
news.
No, we've been going through news.
All right.
All right.
Well, today's program is a topic you chose. How did today's topic come about?
Well, like I was telling you before the show, last week, Rachel Sheldon and I were doing an episode where we were talking about dogma, and we had a caller who identified herself as Pam, may not have been her real name. And Pam was wondering why it was we were atheists and why we weren't Christians. And she, told us we should really try to read the Bible and try to understand the Bible. And I told Rachel and I both told her we've read the whole Bible.
And of the hosts here on the show today, how many have read the Bible in its entirety? Okay.
Yes. And so we told her that, and then she said, well, you got to understand it, right? And so I responded to her saying that I understand the verse in Deuteronomy, which is part of the rape laws, which we may get into further later, where it says that a raped woman, a rape victim, has to marry her rapist, and she cannot have any say in it, and even her father has no say in it. I told her that
the rapist has to pay the father a certain number of shekels.
A specified number, which is interesting because there's another text that deals with seduction, not rape, and the father can set the price as high as he likes. But
it's negotiable then.
Yes, but in case of rape, the father can't raise the price. But anyway, so when I mentioned that, Pam became quite annoyed, it seemed, where she said that, but why would you mention that verse? Why would you bring that one up?
This is the same Pam who asked you to read the whole Bible,
exactly,
right?
Rachel and I tried explaining to her that, we have a caller, but one moment, that these are verses. This is a verse that you don't often hear, and I think the problem is that Christians are not honest enough with themselves or with people they're trying to market their religion to.
All right. Well, caller, thank you for being with us today. Can we get a name or a nickname and a question or comment, and we'll have some back and forth.
Oh, yeah, this is Jonathan from Alabama.
Hello, Jonathan.
It's good to meet y'all. And what are y'all's names again now?
I'm Faithless Forrest.
I'm Ben.
All right. Good deal, fellas. How y'all doing today?
We're good.
We're doing just great. You got a comment or a question on our show topic today?
Yeah. I just wanted, me and my buddies are sitting here, and we're just trying to educate ourselves, but we didn't know what is the main reason you would say that you would not believe in a God or just be atheist. What's the main point?
All right.
You start.
Could you start?
Oh,
and
sure.
Sam, can you find the slide that defines atheism?
Okay, so why I'm an atheist and why I don't believe in Christianity, we'll say. I'm an atheist because I haven't found any evidence of a God. There are many Christians and many other people of different religions who claim to have evidence, and I've looked at those, and I don't find them convincing, or there's problems with the evidence. And so I'm an atheist because there's no good evidence. I'm not a Christian because I studied the Bible and have talked with a lot of Christians and grew up in the church, and I've come to the conclusion that there are too many problems with it for me to believe it.
Okay, I can see that point of view, because the whole Christian religion's based on faith, not fact or evidence per se, but really what I was getting, what I can kind of sense it about you, that maybe you might just be scared of the devil, maybe, because if you're going to be a Christian and believe in God, you have to most certainly believe in the devil. And that's
Jonathan, let's interrupt right here on that point. That's a common belief that callers to our show have. The devil is part of the same set of mythology that is also Jehovah or Yahweh, meaning just like the Greeks had Zeus and Apollo and Athena,
Hades.
And Hades, the Christians have this Yahweh and Jesus and the devil. And we don't believe any of those are true. And so if you look on our screen right now, you'll see we got up the definition of atheist.
Okay,
and
so
although atheist is misspelled.
Oh, well, it's my spelling, my fault.
So
sorry
it says,
for that. Atheist is the answer to one question, and that is, do you believe in a God or gods?
I was going to
say, the reason about belief may or may not be independent of what kind of evidence you have.
Well,
it's a conclusion.
Let me add this too. Now, I hear everything y'all say. I'm trying to educate myself.
Okay.
So I appreciate y'all, the information you're providing for me.
Okay.
Now, have y'all ever heard of the saying that the greatest thing the devil ever did was convince people he wasn't real?
Oh, yes, I have. I've heard the saying. However, a couple things about the devil. For one thing, I don't even believe God exists, so I'd say it'd be even better if he could convince me God didn't exist. But
well, they kind of go hand in hand.
Well, yeah, they go hand in hand. But the thing is that the devil didn't convince me that God doesn't exist. I went and talked to a lot of different Christians, and I went and watched a lot of Christians debate it with atheists and talk about it themselves without atheists around. And I've looked at why what they present as reason to believe, including faith and such, and their basis for faith as well, because a lot of people have reasons why they have faith.
Right.
And those reasons do not stand up to me, to what I consider to be good or bad evidence.
Okay.
And the other thing is that when I read the Bible, Satan to me is not what he is to many Christians.
So how would you define it? Maybe like as a force or energy per se?
No, I know what you mean. Some people do. There are some people who hold those positions as well, but I mean that I look at the Bible, the Old Testament say, and I look at the Genesis story where there's the serpent, and I don't see that that's the Satan, because the story doesn't identify the serpent as Satan. It identifies it as a serpent.
No, you did, yeah. I would say, he's more of a horny-ish type thing with horns growing out his head and whatnot. But
yes. But the thing is, I chuckle because, yes, that is actually the common conception. But the thing is, I don't know of anywhere in the Bible that describes him as that. And the other thing is that when I read about, there are only very few passages in the Old Testament that describe Satan. And when I read about those, he doesn't seem to really be conflicting with God. For example, look at the book of Job. It's a very, very commonly preached about book in churches. Satan, when he goes to talk to God, God isn't angry at him. He doesn't condemn him, nothing. Instead, Satan asks permission to go and trouble Job by killing off his family, his flocks, and giving him illness. And God lets him. He says, "Oh, that's fine. Go ahead." And so Satan goes and does that. He comes back to God. God's not angry. God's not like, "Oh, how dare you do this?" God's like, "Oh, and how's that working out?" And Satan's like, "Well, I need to do some more to him," and so he lets him do some more. And what's also interesting is that nowhere in, or I say nowhere, but very few locations will you find anyone, including Job and his friends, who have the long talks after this, do they ever blame Satan for anything? The Jews hardly ever, if ever, blame Satan for any evil that happens. In fact, the book of Job in the last chapter says that his friends came and comforted him for all the evil that the Lord had brought upon him, crediting God with being evil.
So let's ask Jonathan if he understands the argument you've made.
So that can probably, I feel like, everybody's going to have their own little interpretation of the wording per se, because who knows if we're reading the exact wording that was written thousands of years ago and whatnot. But I guess I can see what you're saying now.
So Jonathan,
I'd be way too fearful not to believe in the devil, though. That's just me, though. I feel like he's very real, and that scares a lot of people into not accepting Christianity as their religion.
See, I don't understand.
Let me ask.
The fact that, let me share with you, when you die, when you pass over, do you believe in any type of afterlife?
No.
Let me grab this. Jonathan, let me grab this.
I'd be scared than anything.
Okay, Jonathan, Lee's
going
going
to mute you, Jonathan. Let us talk here.
Hang on, he wants to respond to what you're saying.
You asked about whether or not we've... Hello. Sorry,
we had some technical difficulty. Go ahead, Lee.
Jonathan, you still with us?
Yeah. I'm still here.
Okay, all right.
So let me try and answer your question. You asked, I think you were talking about it, well, aren't we scared when we're going to die and all that other stuff? Meaning, so here's my view on it. I have never believed in a God or the supernatural. I know that when my body dies, my brain, which is where I think, just starts to rot, and I will be gone, and that will be...
You don't believe in any type of a soul or a spirit that lies within you?
No, and I think I can try and get the message across, the feeling that I have about, an understanding I have like this. You don't have any memory of what the world was like before you were born, right?
Right.
You don't know what the world was really like when George Washington walked around.
Right.
And after we die, it'll be the same thing. We won't know what that's like. The only thing we have is the life we have here. And from our point of view, it's important that the life we have here is not adversely affected by erroneous ideas. And so if
pondering and such.
I'm sorry, I spoke over you. Could you say again?
Can I ask you one more question?
Okay.
Sure.
Do you feel like that you have any sort of, I guess some people call it a conscience or a voice in you that helps you make your decisions? I mean, I guess you could call it your brain, but I feel like something that helps your brain work, I guess.
Okay. All right, we're going to both answer you. Lee, go ahead.
Okay, and yes, Jonathan, I do have that, and I believe that I can address that, and that is that I care for others, and I like interacting with them, and I realize that I have to treat them civil if I expect them to give me the pleasure of their interaction.
Right.
So that's what keeps me as nice as I can be.
Okay. more directly to the idea of a voice speaking to you, conscience or whatever. When we're children, we are raised and we are taught, you do not kill, you do not steal, you do not do this, and people tell us this. As a result, those phrases get in our minds, and if we're ever confronted with a scenario, because we've been trained that way by our parents and our society and our teachers and such, and Sunday school teachers even, and pastors, we think about what we know about this action or what we've been taught about this action, and those voices come to our minds. We remember these people telling us these things. As a result, we have that chamber, I want to say it, kind of an echo chamber where it's in there and it comes back up, and it's like, oh yeah. And that feeds into our decision making about whether or not something is right or wrong or whether we should or not.
Let me see. So Jonathan, do you remember being told by adults when you were young about how to behave well?
Yeah, I hear you. It's there's a lot of societal forces out there and pressures that tell you to act and behave a certain way and what have you. And I guess it most of it I would say is good for the betterment of society and human progress, I reckon. But I believe that everybody's got a soul and a spirit, and that there is a spiritual afterlife, and I'm just I'd much rather have a peaceful spiritual afterlife than one that's full of misery and fire and what have you. I'm just and I feel like I should pray for you boys. I don't know if y'all will pray or not.
Thank him.
But
all right.
Y'all mind if I pray with you on here?
I'm afraid not, because we've got only a certain amount of time to go through the material we've got. But you're more than welcome to pray for us at home if you'd like.
And we want to thank you, Jonathan, for thinking of our well-being.
And we appreciate that you care about us, and have been very polite with us here.
Because that's the human thing to do.
I'm trying to educate myself as well as, and I'm always open to what others have to say. I'm never going to, I'm not somebody that's open, closed-minded.
That's good.
Well, that's great. Well, we would like to ask a few quick questions, and then we want to say goodbye. Are you local?
He's from Alabama.
Oh, I'm sorry, you did tell us that. And
Alabama, yes.
Yes.
And do you watch often? I guess maybe I should even say, how did you find us?
No, I don't watch often now. I'm up here visiting some buddies of mine, and we were just flipping through the panels and saw you on. So we were, I figured I'd call in and just,
All right. Okay, we're having some difficulty here.
Y'all there, fellas?
Oh, we're here. We're just some feedback or something
There's
coming
some
through.
Audio trouble here in the studio.
So, all right.
So, we meet at Barley's Tap Room and Pizzeria after the show. If you'd like to talk further, why don't you please come down there and see us? And we're going to say goodbye to you now.
Hey, sounds good, brothers. All right, y'all have a blessed day now.
All right. You can also watch us online if you when you go back to Alabama. If you're interested, you can watch us online on the station's website,
and that is ctvknox.org. I guess it's up over our heads.
Oh yes.
All right.
All right, now Jesus loves y'all, and I love y'all, and I'll be praying for y'all. So y'all listen to that voice of your spirit. Now listen to your spirit.
Thanks, Jonathan. We're saying bye then.
All right. Take care.
All right. Well, Jonathan is very nice.
He was very nice indeed.
I think he's much nicer than the Jehovah of the Bible.
Oh.
Why don't we discuss some of the shortcomings of Jehovah of the Bible? We encourage other callers. Let's discuss a little bit, maybe another 5-10 minutes, that we'll take our mid-program break.
Okay. Well, the Bible has many, many different things that people in churches generally do not preach upon, teach upon, or even discuss personally. Several of them have to do with the laws of the Old Testament, which the Christian, Jewish, and Muslim God gave to the Jewish people.
When you say gave, how did that happen?
Well, according to the Bible, he gave these laws to them upon a mountaintop.
Okay. Well, when I read the Bible, I heard it. Moses got Ten Commandments on stone tablets. He broke them. He went back for revision. But there are more laws than just the Ten Commandments. How did that happen?
Sure. I don't know about. I'm not going to go into how it happened, but the point is, that there were a bunch of laws supposedly written on tablets by God, and that they were, so, according to the stories, they were broken, and God rewrote them again for them. So some of these interesting laws that Christians generally tend to ignore is, and I'll tell you where to find them as well if you'd like to go look them up. In Exodus chapter 21, there are the slave laws, which Yahweh tells them about how to treat their slaves, if and when they're allowed to let them go, let them free. We have a collar. And also, I just want to say real quick one other thing, and also even going so far as to instruct them how much they're allowed to beat them, to what extent.
All right. You want to greet the caller?
Sure. Hello, caller. This is Freethought Forum. Could we get a name or nickname, and do you have a question or comment for us?
David.
David, hello.
That's my phone, boy, but that's yours.
Yeah, there's a problem in the studio.
We're having a problem, so...
Try talking over it if you can.
Okay, I have my TV muted already.
Good.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, I want to ask you guys, and I watch every week. I'm the one told you to Google Hall of Shame.
Yes.
And I do. The Pope is resigning, and they've got all these male prostitutes, and they've been covering up the priests, molesting the children.
Yes.
Why are there so many Catholics?
Well, I'd say a large part of it has to do with denial. Another part of it has to do with ignorance. Right now in the world, the largest Catholic populations are in, I believe it's Africa and in South America. And while I'm not sure exactly how well the news travels down in South America, I know in Africa it's not. There's not a whole lot of media circulation, I would say. Not as much as we have, say, here or in Europe. As a result, a lot of people aren't even aware these things are happening. The other thing is that it's interesting is that a lot of Catholics, look at the priests and the cover-ups and such and simply say, well, that's just the current administration that's been doing this, and we just need a new administration and we'll be fine.
Yeah, but the administration keeps covering up and hiding. I don't understand why anybody with any moral conscience could even claim to be a Catholic.
I don't either.
Looks like that thing was all apart.
Okay, well, David, let me try and play Catholic advocate here.
All right.
Most members are probably going to judge the church merely by their local church. Do they like the people that sit in the pews next to them and sing in the choir with them? And so long as they don't think those people are abusive, they probably will think, well, those others are just an aberration. And they probably, maybe don't stop to think about the numbers involved. They may think, oh, well, I've heard of that before, and not necessarily realize, well, this is yet a new report or a new thing.
Yeah.
People, it is in human nature that we often want to think the best of our fellow human beings. At least many of us find that's our default position. All right?
But now, if that administration is at fault, every Catholic that is given 10% is supporting that administration, whether they want to admit it or not.
Sure.
Well, so I think, David, you're seconding the opinion that Annie Laurie Gaylor was expressing in the letter that we read earlier. It is time for liberal Catholics, for responsible Catholics, to do the only effective thing you can do to get the attention of the church, and that is to leave and stop paying and funding the problems there that are not being corrected.
What gets me is that the hierarchy covers up. They'll move a priest somewhere else that's been, has issues with children. And they'll move him off somewhere else, let him start over.
And it's interesting too is that sometimes, like, there's a book called Losing My Religion. I can't remember the author's name, but he was a Catholic at the time when the first scandals were breaking out, and he is and was a journalist at the time, and his news group got exclusive information on the first case that was breaking out about a priest whose nickname was Father Hollywood, because he was so well loved by a lot of high-profile people out in California. And what was interesting is when it finally came out that he was definitely guilty and he had confessed, the author of the book went to his church, went to the guy's church, and where he was giving an admission to his flock and telling them, yes, I have done this. What was most appalling and shocking was that after the guy had said this and he left the building, the people immediately started talking about how they wanted to name their new fellowship hall after the pedophile priest who had just admitted to molesting children.
Now, who's brainwashed?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, but the thing is that in the Catholic Church, they have this very elevated view of their clergy, more so than Protestants have, where they are, particularly when they are handling communion, they are just up there with like the divinity itself at that moment. And so as a result, they have this near deification or perfection about these holy men. So there's a strong trust there.
Supposedly do so much for the poor and children. I read somewhere online a long time ago that the Catholic Church is worth approximately $180 billion with a B.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's this guy that was on the internet and said they had more money than God.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, considering we don't think God exists, it's very
acting
true.
as his representative.
I just wanted to get your all's thought on that.
Sure.
Well,
thank you, David.
Thanks for calling us again, David. I know that Larry and I have looked at that Hall of Shame website. I'll confess I don't remember any of the specifics of it, but...
they're all the same.
Yeah. It's a little bit like looking at the black-collar crime sheet in the monthly Freethought Today, the published article, the published newspaper of the Freedom from Religion Foundation. All right.
Okay, thank you.
We say thank you too, and have a good day.
See you, David. All right.
Let's jump into our mid-program break.
All right. In case you're just tuning in, this is Freethought Forum, a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee. Freethought Forum is funded jointly by them and by individual contributions. Shows are live most every Tuesday from 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern on Community Access Television. You can tell your out-of-friends towns to see us streaming online at ctvknox.org.
This is a call-in show, and we are live today, February 26th, I think it is. And viewers can call in now to the number on the screen. I think that's down below us.
Yeah.
Or tweet them to us. Man, I don't have my tweeter up here. Perhaps someone in our studio audience will be watching the tweets for us.
Yes.
I guess it's the @FFTVKNOX.
The Atheist Society of Knoxville, or ASK, meets 2 times a week usually. We have meetups for fun, food, drink, and conversation. ASK's purpose is to supply a venue for community camaraderie and outreach to atheists, agnostics, freethinkers, and other like-minded persons in East Tennessee. Go to meetup.com and search for Atheists and Knoxville in order to find the group.
And Sam, can you run our ASK promotional informational video? Here we go.
Area and are questioning your religious beliefs or simply believe in one less God than everyone else? Well, you're not alone. The Atheist Society of Knoxville is a fun and friendly group of people just like you that meets twice a week at a bar or restaurant. We meet every Tuesday night following the show at Barley's Tap Room and Pizzeria for happy hour. You'll find our group either inside or on the patio. Look for Richard Dawkins' silver-jacketed book, The God Delusion, standing upright on the table. On Fridays, we meet at Agave Azul or the Beard and Beer Market. But if you plan to preach, proselytize, provoke, or punch, please don't. We all question what we believe at one point in our lives. If this is the time for you, come join us for food, drink, conversation, and fun.
All right, well, come visit the Atheist Society in Knoxville down at Barley's Tap Room and Pizzeria right after the show. The Rationalists of East Tennessee have Sunday activities, usually involving lively presentations and topics of discussion, both timeless and topical. Once a month, we get together for a book club. You need not have read the book to attend, but of course it helps. Visit rationalists.org to find out more. Let's have that video.
Do you find stories of talking snakes laughable? Do you prefer the scientific method over supernatural beliefs? Are you concerned about religious leaders and organizations imposing their values and rules on your body, your family, and the rest of our society? Well, take comfort in the fact that you're not alone. The Rationalists of East Tennessee meets weekly for fellowship and provides a forum for people who support skeptical thinking and rational discussion of these and other issues. To find out more information or to find out about our next meeting, visit us on the web at www.rationalist.org.
All right.
Right.
Both the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee help provide a social outlet where if you don't believe in God, you're not alone.
The Rationalists of East Tennessee Book Club upcoming books, at least the upcoming book in March, is The Epigenetics Revolution, How Modern Biology is Rewriting Our Understanding of Genetic Disease and Inheritance by Nessa Carey. It sounds like our call screener's still working on one. Let me read a couple more books. The April book is Quiet, The Power of Introverts in a World That Cannot Stop Talking by Susan Cain. May is Answers for Aristotle, How Science and Philosophy Can Lead Us to a More Meaningful Life by Massimo, whose last name I always mispronounce. Piglucci?
I'd say Piglucci, but
Piglucci.
maybe.
And did we have a call? All right, we're having some confusion with our call screener here.
All right, so June.
And June, finally, we have Collapse, How Societies Choose to Fail or Succeed, a revised edition by Jared Diamond. This is the second time that the Rationalists have covered that book. They covered it first just before I joined in the early 2000s.
And now we have a caller.
Hello, caller. Thank you for calling Freethought Forum. Can we get a name or a nickname?
Yeah, this is Charles.
Hello, Charles.
Hello, Charles.
Yeah, I'm calling from Illinois, so
Okay.
I'm out of state. But I caught your show from a blip from, I think, the Atheist Experience, and I've been watching you ever since.
Okay. Cool.
And I would like to comment on what your previous caller was talking about, why the laity accepts so easily the priesthood.
Ooh, sorry, we had some trouble. Go on.
And the priesthoods and the rest of the bishops, archbishops, and cardinals' actions. One of the very first declarations ever made by the church was the only way to heaven was through the grace of the Holy Spirit, which exists solely within the church.
Yeah.
Now, the late Pope John Paul II had a book of poetry out where he talked about how he could name the powers of the universe. In my opinion, the laity has been indoctrinated about the dignity of the office of priesthood, bishop, and so forth. It is sanctified by the Holy Spirit and holds a tremendous amount of psychological power over them.
Right. I agree. I think that is very much why that they keep with it. It's only those typically who have been abused and their families, particularly their close family, that find it distressing. And even then, there are some who have suffered abuse who still stick with the church, who just believe that this is just one bad apple or whatever, or that.
Well, remember, let's think this through. The saying from the founder of the Jesuits was, "Give me a child unto the age of 7, and then do with him what you will. He is mine for the rest of his life."
It can be that way, yes.
Yeah, well, many of us will find we've formed much of our opinions by that time. I had a natural worldview by that time. I could have been very susceptible to supernatural beliefs when I was younger, no doubt.
Yeah, that's definitely a part of the whole society and so forth. Well, I'll let you go for more callers.
Don't go, David.
David.
Can we ask?
Charles.
Sorry, Charles. Don't go.
That was
Are you part of a free thought group locally where you live in Illinois, or are you kind of alone?
Well, there's the one at the University of Illinois that I've been trying to contact, but I work thirds, so it's kind of hard.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay, I was actually making notes on that. So, and when you say University of Illinois, is that like in Chicago, or is that somewhere else in the state? I don't know. I'm
down in Champaign, Illinois.
Champaign.
Okay, that's kind of central. I've driven up through there. I grew up in Minnesota, and on drives back there, I've driven up through there. In the summer, that's a very beautiful agrarian paradise.
It's flat.
Agrarian paradise. Yes.
It is flat.
All right. Well, we encourage you to try and find like-minded people. It's fun to go to the bar after the show with people and learn about their stories. The sharing of deconversion experiences is one of the it's how we kind of get to know one another, and it's just the best thing.
All right, Charles. Thank you for calling.
Thank you.
Right.
Take care.
Bye then.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Well, we've got something like about 12, 13 minutes left. We encourage people to give us a call right away.
All right. So they're talking about dirty secrets of the Bible, things people like Pam don't want you to know about. Pam being, in case you've just tuned in recently, a former caller we've had who was quite displeased when I mentioned a verse she didn't like.
So, Ben, I can remember once when you taught me a kind of a fun thing. I had read the Bible, and I had read where David, the King David, took a census and then got punished. And you taught me something interesting about that. Could you tell me the story about
There's a couple of
David
interesting
and the
things
census?
about that. Well, for one thing, there are two tellings of the same story. One is in 2 Samuel 24, the other is in 1 Chronicles 21. Differences between the story, well, the story itself goes as follows, in general, that God is angry at Israel already. Somehow, whether it's God or Satan, depending on which book you read, entices David to take a census, which was against Yahweh's rules at the time. And so they take the census, and we have a caller on hold. They take the census, and as a result of taking the census, suddenly David is overwhelmed with guilt because he realizes it's wrong, even though in one story God told him to, and in another story Satan told him to. And so, as a result, Yahweh punishes David indirectly and the people of Israel directly, causing I believe it was
a plague,
a terrible plague. Like, he gave David 3 choices of how they could be punished. I believe it was famine, plague, and being chased by their enemies. And he left it up to God to decide. He said, "I cannot pick, God pick." And so God chose a plague and wiped out a whole lot of Israelites. And yes, it's a very disturbing story that you really usually don't hear tell.
But we have caller.
Sure. Hello, caller. Welcome to Freethought Forum. Can we get a name or nickname?
My name is Lucy. How are you all doing tonight?
Good, Lucy. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. I just have read some startling news on the internet via a buddy of mine in the past week or so about Vladimir Putin and the aliens living in Russia amongst the government officials. And I wanted to know where the Men in Black are. Because he said Men in Black, and he meant people in the United States interpreted the language as the movie Men in Black, but in reality, they were talking about the documentary made by
Lucy, I have to ask, did you call in with any serious questions, or...
Yeah.
I was just wondering your view on atheism. Is that you believe that the aliens are living among us?
I believe that's a bunch of nonsense.
Viewpoints?
Yeah.
I believe that's a bunch of nonsense, and I believe even a theist would believe that's a bunch of nonsense.
So, Lucy, let me
a lot of evidence
lob an answer at that question, Lucy.
A green beam went into a...
If you wish to continue to stay on the line, Lee would like to respond to you.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So, Lucy, as a physicist, I understand a little bit about something of the size of the universe, and how difficult it is to move around in it. And I always like to say about issues of unidentified flying objects that I firmly believe there are unidentified flying objects. I don't believe that they are aliens. I think they're unidentified. And while I suspect that life is common in the universe, I suspect life has never come to visit us because it's just too hard. That said, we did have a fun thing happen in in Russia, a week ago.
Fun for them.
We did have an extraterrestrial visitor. It was a rock, and that's the kind of extraterrestrials that will come off. So Lucy, are you local? Are you local? All right. Lucy, are you local? I'm gonna say goodbye.
All right, Lucy. All right. We've said farewell to you. Thank you for your call. That was most amusing. Thank you, Lee.
Yes. All right.
All right. Please, anyone watching, you're more than welcome to call in and ask questions.
We are
preferably serious, but that was amusing.
We are free thinking, I guess.
All right. So you were asking me about
with respect to problems in the Bible. So you addressed the issue about the ambiguity the Bible makes of was it Jehovah, Yahweh, that commanded David to take a census and then punished him,
or was
it Satan?
And the thing is, it's the later text of Chronicles that says it's Satan. In the earlier text, it's Yahweh. And the thing is, it wouldn't be that surprising.
So there's revision going on here, that someone's making a boogeyman.
And it's not the only revision in the text. The numbers are also changed.
Yeah. So when I read it, my reaction was, so David is commanded to take a census. He does it. He gets punished. And then in another book, he's commanded to take a sentence, and I just assumed it was a second sentence. And the thought that went through my brain is, wait a minute, stupid. It didn't turn out well the last time. What did you think?
It is a depressing tale, particularly because David, in both stories, begs God to not punish the people, for the people did nothing, referring to them as sheep who have done nothing wrong, but rather to blame him and to punish him because he's the one that did wrong. But instead, Yahweh decides to punish people who had not had anything to do with it.
So David was more honorable than Yahweh himself.
Yes, arguably so.
All right. Sounds like the screener's dealing with another call, but let's see if we can find another contradiction or
there's
dirty
plenty.
secret to
All
talk
right.
about.
Well, we got a caller now. We may not get through a lot of this. All right, then.
Hello, caller. This is Freethought Forum. Can we get a name or a nickname?
My name's Rick.
Hi, Rick.
Hello, Rick.
I was wondering if you had heard about anything being done in the area of preachers paying taxes for their income.
I don't know. It's an interesting question because I've recently, I recently watched an interesting video on YouTube, which challenged the conventional atheist position that they should be taxed by arguing that if you tax them, then they are free to preach politics from the pulpit and possibly organize into movements. That maybe it's a good thing that they remain untaxed.
Richard, let me grab this a moment, Richard. I know that there is some kind of income exemption for things like the parish houses in which they live, and the way that it's called an income exemption makes me think that their income probably is taxed as personal income, meaning the salary that a priest pays. But things like church property is often tax exempt.
The church itself.
So the church is tax exempt, but ministers and preachers probably are paying an income tax. I'm just guessing.
I heard that they didn't. I know when I look at the RS forums and things, I always thought that preachers of, let's say, a local Baptist church, his salary is tax exempt.
I don't know if it's fully exempt. I know when I did my taxes this year, there was a thing in the forums that, are you a clergy? And it may take something off, but I don't know.
So, Rick, I know that the Freedom from Religion Foundation are attempting to bring suit against the IRS for unequal treatment because they are a nonprofit organization, but they're not allowed to deduct the same expenses from their income, and it's their persons, the person of Dan Barker and Annie Laurie Gaylor, I believe, that they're not able to deduct like their housing expenses the same way a minister is able to deduct the housing expenses. So I think that implies that they are that even ministers are paying income tax. And after all, it is easy to become a minister. There are places you can get ordained online pretty fast online, and if that's all it took to get tax-free, I would bet the whole population would become ministers real fast.
Yeah, it'd be worth it. Well, and then they change the law real fast, because then it would be bad.
I actually hope that I'm wrong, because I think it's terribly unfair.
Sure.
But that was the assumption I had all these years.
Rick, are you a regular watcher of our show?
No, I stumbled along it today.
Okay.
And I've been a reader of philosophy and the human mind my entire life, so naturally I would be interested.
All right, well, that's great. Are you local here in the East Tennessee area?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
We've said it many times today, but right after the show, we're down at the Barley's Tap Room and Pizzeria, where we talk about this and other wide-ranging topics. You're welcome to join us tonight.
And it's a pretty big group, by the way.
Most Tuesdays.
It's not just us.
Yeah. All right.
It sounds great, except for the alcohol part.
You don't have to drink. I don't drink.
Yeah, when I walk in, the waitress knows, and she just brings me water, and then I usually have the soup.
There's no pressure to drink at all. You're more than welcome to come and have water. They have food as well.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
Well, not all teetotalers are Christian.
We understand. Thank you for calling, and let us wish you a good afternoon, and hope you watch some more.
Yeah, I'll definitely watch next Tuesday. I heard that it was on Tuesdays.
At 5 p.m. we're on.
That's great. Let's say bye now. All right, well, so we've got time. If someone calls in really quick, we might be able to talk to you.
Answer a quick question maybe, but so in the meantime.
Bible's Dirty Secrets.
Yeah, okay, I'm going to try to get through something, because there's so many. The one I want to definitely focus on is the one Pam objected to, is that in Deuteronomy chapter 22, there are a lot of rules about sexual relations with regard to like not having sex with one's family members, and also if a man marries a woman and accuses her of not being a virgin, and it is found that she's not a virgin, and they check it by seeing if she bled from their intercourse on the sheets, which not all women bleed, by the way, when they lose their virginity, which means that they wind up being executed. I'm sorry. They wind up being executed, but it's the fact. But all right, but they wind up being executed if they're considered to have not been virgins. Okay. But I guess I won't get to rape laws today, because...
Hello, caller. Welcome to Freethought Forum. Please give us a name or a nickname. Give us a short comment or question. We've only got a minute.
Yep.
The name is Boris. I really like your show.
Cool.
I just wanted to ask you if you heard of Gary Will's book, Why Priests? This is not really a dirty secret, but he was on the Colbert Report a few days ago, and he's a Catholic theologian, and he talked about the book of Hebrews, which basically supports the idea of the priesthood, and he mentioned that the book of Hebrews was not really written by Paul.
Nope.
And it's really an interesting book. Anybody interested in the idea of the Roman Catholic clergy? Gary Wills calls into question traditional beliefs about the Holy Priesthood, you might say.
Well, it sounds like it might be a great book for the rationalists in the future.
I haven't read it.
Let's ask the few quick questions. Are you local? Do you watch often? And
I watch pretty regularly.
Oh, cool.
All right. And we're going to need to say goodbye, and we encourage you to call in on a future show.
Or come down to Barley's if you haven't.
Yes, that's a great place. Thanks very much.
Right,
You're
we're
doing a great
run.
job.
Thanks for your call.
All right, well.
All right, it's time to start wrapping things up. Get out your pen and paper. This has been Freethought Forum, a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee.
Please send us feedback. Leave voicemail at 865-272-9606 or email us.
No, 9060.
I may have transposed that.
All right.
9060 freethoughtforum@yahoo.com.
You can see the show on Tuesdays from 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time on this Knoxville station, and 2200 Greenwick Mean Time at ctvknox.org.
We would like to send our thanks to Sam Jonas for technical support, and to the staff at CTV Knox, and to all of our lovely callers today. I have a quote from Galileo I'd like to leave you with. I do not feel obliged to believe that the same God who has endowed us with sense, reason, and intelligence